I'll be reading Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured for sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may grow weary or faint-hearted.
Thank you, Landon. Good morning. I want to start out by saying thank you. Thank you to the elders for allowing me to come back. Y'all had me in the summer, and I guess you weren't sick of me yet, so let's see if this works. But I really do appreciate the honor of coming back and working for you guys. So thank you to the elders. Thank you for Jeff and Stephanie for letting me to stay with them and eat their food. I appreciate that. But also thank you to you guys for being patient with me and everything we're doing. Thank you to the youth for just sticking with me and allowing me to do this. So, start out. See if that worked. Ah, there it goes. The phrase, new year, new me. It's a phrase that we commonly use when we talk about New Year's resolutions. So, how many of y'all made New Year's resolutions this past year? It was only a couple days ago, okay? Right? Now, how many of you kept up with it so far? Better yet, how many of you have actually ever failed at New Year's resolutions? Maybe not this past year, a few years past. Yeah, same here. They're easy to fail, so to speak, because we make these lofty New Year's resolutions. You know, I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to run a mile every day to train for that marathon. Or I'm going to run that marathon in a couple months. Maybe it is, I'm going to get rid of junk food for a month. For an entire month, I'm not going to eat junk food so I can lose weight. Maybe it is, I'm only going to eat things that are green. But then things like, I didn't have time. That's a big one. I forgot about it. Or, in some circumstances, those cookies looked really good. But don't we do that with our spiritual life as well? We make these New Year's resolutions, right? New Year comes around, we're like, okay, this year, I'm going to read my Bible every day. Or I'm going to read that entire Bible in the year. Or I'm going to pray every day, right before I go to bed. Or maybe I'm going to wake up in the morning and pray. Maybe it's even things like, I'm going to talk to that coworker. I'm going to talk to that friend that I've been meaning to. But then it hits. We have that spark, that desire to do it, and then it burns out in like a week. Because we're human. It happens. But it reminds me of things like youth camps and youth retreats. Because, as most of y'all know, the youth group just got back from Exposure Youth Camp this past Wednesday. It was a fantastic time. I know I grew from that trip. I really hope the kids did as well. It was fantastic. I'm so glad I got to go. It was my first time. It was a little different, so what I was told, but it was a great time, and I feel like we all bonded, and that gives us a spark to do better, a spark to really live in the moment, live our spiritual life to the fullest. So we get this new year, new me stance in spiritual life. But I'm here to change that. I want to change that today. Today I want to do new year, same me. Because the thing is, the year changed, but God didn't. Jesus never changed. He didn't change back in 2016, 2018, didn't change 2020, and He's not changing in 2021. Our faith shouldn't change. It should be the same faith we had back in 2016, 2018, 2020, and now 2021. So that's what I want to talk about today, is a new year, same me mentality. Because that's the truth. We should be the same. We should have the same faith. Just be better. And today we're going to look at three individuals from the Bible, that two of them resemble what it means to not change, to have the same faith no matter the circumstance. And then the last one, we're going to talk about change, transformation. So starting right off, we're talking about Joseph. Okay, Joseph in the coat of many colors, for those in VBS. He is the 11th son of Jacob. He's very young. Jacob only had 12 sons. Well, he was the 11th, right? But he was also the favorite. And that's something that we need to remember, because it plays a vital part to the story. For those of you that have siblings, and your parents have a favorite sibling at all? Yeah, some of you are going, yeah, I know that person. There's a joke going on in my family, and it's kind of partially true, that I'm my mom's favorite. Okay, I'm not ashamed to admit that. I'm a mama's boy. But my sister, however, is my dad's favorite, 100%. So it's fair, it's even. But there's sometimes the favorite gets something the other doesn't, whether that be intentional or not. And this happened in this circumstance. Joseph was treated very differently from the other brothers. He was given a lot more than the other brothers. He was the favorite. But not only to do that, but to make matters worse, Joseph had two dreams in the beginning of the story. And both dreams he told his brothers and his father. And in those dreams, they basically said that they will bow down to him. We will later come to find out that is true. But look at it from their perspective. Their younger brother comes up to them. Let's look at the brother's perspective. The younger brother comes up and goes, "You will bow down to me one day, because I had a dream about it." I'm the oldest of 5. If any of my siblings came up to me and said, "One day you will bow down to me because I had a dream about it," I would probably laugh in their face. You know, I don't see them coming up and doing that, but I don't see me bowing down to them because they had a dream. But the fact that he did it twice, the brothers hated him for it. Absolutely hated him for it. So much so, they wanted to kill him. Well, he gets thrown in a pit. Brothers take him, throw him in a pit. Joseph's at a low point, literally and metaphorically. But he's probably thinking right now, oh no, I'm going to die, and my own brothers are going to kill me. He still didn't lose faith. But instead of killing him, they sold him into slavery. Okay? Now Joseph's not dying, but now he's a slave. That's very upsetting, right? Still didn't lose faith. Well, then he's sold to the captain of the guard, where he did great there. He literally, the only one above him was Potiphar, and the captain of the guard, and all he could do is just not mess with his wife. He's got a good setup now. He worked his way up. Things are going good. But then Potiphar's wife wanted him to lie with her. This is where the story gets downfall again. But Joseph, having the faith and love for God, knew that it was a sin not only to God, but to Potiphar. So he did what's best and ran away. Ran away from that sin and temptation. But because of Potiphar's wife, she blamed Joseph, saying that he did. He lied with me. So instead, he got thrown in prison for doing the right thing, for something he did not do. I don't know about y'all, but I get upset when I get blamed for things I didn't do. Okay, I think that's a normal reaction, right? Because you're like, I didn't do that. But in Joseph's stance, he could do that all he wanted to, and it didn't matter. So he got thrown in prison, another low point in Joseph's life. And yet he still didn't change. Okay? Well, then he's in prison with two other people, the chief baker and the chief cupbearer, who got also thrown in prison. And they both had dreams. They didn't understand the meaning. Well, Joseph had a God-given talent that he could interpret dreams through God. And he did so. And the dreams came true. Chief baker would die. Chief cupbearer raised back up to his position. All he asked of the chief cupbearer was to remember him, right? Simple enough, right? I told you what's going to happen. Just please do me a solid and help me. Well, he didn't for 2 years. Now, something we hit on, but I don't think we really get a hold of, is that time for Joseph, right? Because imagine you're in prison for something you didn't do, you're with some people, and you're able to tell exactly what's going to happen, and it comes true, but all you ask is for them to remember you so you can get out of jail for something you did not do. And yet, for 2 years, he didn't. And every day, I'm just trying to picture myself and Joseph. I feel like if I were him, every day I'd be thinking, okay, this is the day that I'm going to get out. And then it doesn't happen. And then it doesn't happen again. And it just goes for 2 years till the cupbearer finally remembers him when Pharaoh needed a dream. And I tell you all his low points for a reason. Because later on in the story, he gets risen up in power with Egypt, only second to the Pharaoh. So he's doing great. But I tell you this for a reason. Not once did Joseph lack faith. Not once did Joseph go, you know what, God's really not real because obviously this wouldn't be happening to me if he were real. Joseph didn't do that. Even when he was able to interpret dreams, he gave the glory to God, not himself. That's special. Because he hit rock bottom. He had a bunch of rock bottom moments and didn't lose faith. That's something I think we should really grasp. Because what we can gather from Joseph is we need to have a faith in God like Joseph. Joseph went from bad to good to bad to good to bad to good. Doesn't that sound like life? Bad moment, stretches for a little bit, then have a really good long moment, and then a bad long moment, rotations. But still having faith in God. And something else we need to remember is God will always be there through trials and temptations. Joseph went through both. Didn't lose faith. So why are we, when we face trials and temptations? This past year was rough. Past year had good, bad, in between, however you want to look at it. But God was still there. And I think especially we've forgotten it this past year. I feel like a lot of people forgot about it this year. That God still works even in tough moments. Moving on, I'm going to look at a character who's probably my favorite character save Jesus. Probably my favorite character in the Bible because of how he deals with what he's given. And that's Job. Job's a fantastic character because of his will and his endurance. Make a world of difference. Another recap of stories. I'm giving you guys a lot of recaps today. But a recap of his story. Job starts out a very wealthy and faithful man. He has a lot of possessions. He has lots of sons and daughters. He has a lot of cattle. He's set. Right? But in one day loses it all. We all have bad days, right? Sometimes they last a little longer. We have bad days. Job had a very, very bad day. He lost everything. He woke up that morning not knowing what's going to happen, and by the end of that day, he was in pain. Far beyond anything imaginable. Because in a day, he lost his family. He lost his wealth and his possessions. And is able to make money. He lost it all. What a hit. We would think that would be the end of it, right? Job was not going to make it much farther in his faith with God. But he did. And that's what makes Job such a great character, is his faith. Because even after losing all of that and that emotional pain, he got a physical pain too. Boils all over his body. Painful sores. Where he had to take clay pots, broken clay pots, and scratch them just to relieve some pain. What pain must have been there, both physically and mentally. And let's add just a little bit more, because the person he decides to spend the rest of his life with, the one that's supposed to have his back, his wife, tells him, curse God and die. How awful is that? Curse God and die. And then just put just the candles on the cake, just the icing on top. His friends come to see him. They don't speak for a week. Okay? I couldn't go without speaking for more than 2 hours, not less a week. But when his friends finally talk to him, they blame him for what's going on with him. They say, "What have you done? Why have you sinned so great?" Now Job is like, "I haven't done anything." Then they call him a liar for it, saying, "You really shouldn't be lying when you're in this much pain, man. There's no sense in your pride getting hurt because you're in this much pain. Why don't you go figure out what you did and try to ask for forgiveness if that's a chance?" So all of that comes together. And we know that it wasn't Job's fault. It was a test from God. Satan comes up to God and says, "Hey," and I'm paraphrasing here, "Hey, if you do all this to him, this giant list of things, he'll lose faith in you." God goes, "Okay, go ahead. See what happens." Test of faith. And Job passed with flying colors. Now, Job did struggle with doubt, like I think any of us would, especially with all of that going on. But in the end, he stayed faithful. He endured all of that. And in the end, came out better, came out stronger. And not only that, he was given double of what he had already. So what he lost, he gained double from, because God blessed his faithfulness. So, what we gather from Job, click the right slide, so we need to mimic a faith like Job's. Okay? Look at his faith and try to copy that. Because that's the truth. We should try to copy Job's faith. Because Job had unbelievable faith in everything he did. Just like Landon read, in Hebrews 12, 1 through 3, endurance is the key to running the race of life. We have to have endurance. If you're planning on running a marathon, you don't just go wake up one morning and go, "Okay, I'm going to run the marathon today." Well, no. You have to train to build up that endurance. Not only that, you need endurance for life. Because life gets bad. But we endure the trials and temptations that is thrown at us, we'll be blessed in the end. But one thing about Job that hits me every time that I read about Job, talk about Job, anything about Job, is this question. If Job was faithful through all that, why can't I be? The struggles we went through this past year, I don't know everyone's struggles, but we made it through that, okay? Most of us still came out faithful, right? But we don't sometimes. And our struggles do not match the ones that Job had. And yet, we still lack faith when there's people like Job going through all of that and still coming out faithful. Think about that. Take a really good look at yourself and go, if Job can be faithful through that, why can't I be? That's a question we should ask ourselves every day to remind ourselves of what faith looks like. Now, as I said, we talked about the two characters that embodied the same, New Year, same me mentality. They didn't change through their circumstance. They didn't allow their circumstances to change us or change their faith. Now we're going to switch gears because I realize there's probably some people today that did not live right back last year, right? Or maybe they didn't even know Jesus at all. It's your first time at church. Well, now you need a new year, new me mentality. So we're going to look at probably what I would think one of the best examples of transformation. If you haven't already guessed it, it's Saul when he changes to Paul on the road to Damascus. In Acts 9, 1 through 22, you see the conversion story of Saul, who changes his entire life all in a matter of a couple days. On the road to Damascus, if you want to turn there, I'm going to paraphrase this story. On the road to Damascus, they're heading down the road, and then all of a sudden, bang, flash of light, Jesus talks with Saul. Blind Saul. Saul is a murderer, okay? Saul thinks he is doing the right thing. He thought he was serving God by killing Christians. Because that's what he was doing. He was doing nothing but killing Christians. Right? He was there at the stoning of Stephen. Man was not somebody that you wanted to be around and call yourself a Christian. But then when Jesus Christ intervenes in this, Christ intervened in his life. And look what he did, because he became one of the most influential men, save Jesus, of course, in Christianity, in the Bible, in my opinion. Because he went from a murderer to an apostle very quickly. Because once he was blinded, he had to go see a man. And to first of all, get his sight back, but to also teach him the gospel. His name was Ananias. Ananias did not want to go because Ananias knew who Saul was. And he was like, if I go over there, I'm going to die. But Ananias had faith in God because God told him go, and he went. But what I really want to focus on right now is what Paul did when he got his sight back. He didn't wait. That's how quick he went and got baptized. First thing he did is went and got baptized. Because we are most likely not going to have a bam, we know everything moment, right? Most likely we won't. But you know what's good about that, though, is we get a choice. We get a choice to serve God. And you guys got a choice right now. We all have a choice right now to serve God and have a faith like Job, like Joseph. And notice how Paul, didn't say, give me a year, Ananias. I'll wait till next year to get faith and, baptized and all that. I'll wait a year. You know what? You stay here. I'll come back in a year and we'll talk some more. No. He did it immediately. That's what we need to realize, is that we can't wait, okay? Let's let God intervene in our lives to change us for the better and be the influential people we were meant to be. We all know people. We are all influences to people, whether it's intentional or not. People look at us. Hopefully they look at us different than most people because we're called to be different. But let God intervene in our lives, and let's start off 2021, if you haven't yet, with a new faith. Getting baptized. Choosing right here, right now, to be baptized. Or to start your faith. And if maybe 2020, you lost it, right? Things got tough, it didn't go the way you wanted it, and you lost it. That's okay. Just choose right now to start this year off right. Don't wait. Don't wait for a couple months. Don't wait for next year. Start right now. And I promise you, you will not regret it. As we come to a close, you may have tuned me out. You maybe saw me walk up here and was like, nope, nap time. And I wouldn't blame you. But I have 3 points I want to make real quick, all right here. If you haven't been listening, please just listen right now. Number 1, you don't have to change. You just have to be faithful. Now, what I mean by that is that we don't have to change and try and make these lofty expectations that we can't meet. Or set these goals that are way too high. And when they don't work out, we get down. And because we weren't able to read our Bible every single day and have 2-hour Bible studies every single day, we get down. And we say, well, I couldn't do that, so I guess I'll just, not go to church. You don't have to change. You just have to be faithful. Read your Bible daily. I'm not saying don't do that. But I'm saying all we have to do is be faithful. It doesn't have to be a new me. It's the same God, same Jesus, same us. Number 2, do not let trials and temptations take us away from our faith. No matter what 2021 has to bring, no matter what this year gives us, do not let the trials and temptations take us. Because we'll probably hit rough patches. There'll be some rough patches. But that doesn't mean our faith has to be shaken. We can be like Job and endure, and Joseph, and just have the faith in God and do what is right. Run away from temptation and trials. If we just keep the faith. And then lastly, if you need to change right now. Don't wait. Don't think next year. Don't think 2 months from now. Don't think when I graduate. Don't think any of that. Think right here, right now. Choose to be faithful. If you need prayers of the church or need to put Christ on in baptism, please come while we stand and as we sing.